What's going on? My name's Jay, and today I'm going to give you 5 storytelling tips that'll help you edit better videos. Let's take a look. If you've been coming around to my live streams lately, first of all, thank you, and second of all, you might have noticed that I've been asking people what their biggest struggle is when it comes to video editing. And the one thing that keeps coming up over and over again is storytelling, and that's not really that surprising. See, storytelling isn't really a technical skill, it's more ambiguous, more subjective, so it's harder to teach than, say, color grading or sound design. So while I can't sit here and show you every single step that it takes to tell a great story, I do have 5 tips that should help if you practice them. Let's get started. Tip number 1 is to have structure, and every great story has structure, and it usually comes in the form of a 3-act narrative, commonly referred to as setup, conflict, and resolution. Let's look at a simple road trip as an example. A family's getting into the car to go to another family's birthday party. That's setup. Along the way, they hit traffic and they risk running late. That's conflict. Eventually, the traffic breaks and they make it to the party on time. That's resolution. If you look hard enough, you can find setup, conflict, and resolution in almost any story, but just in case you can't, you can still settle for a simpler version of a 3-act narrative: beginning, middle, and end. And speaking of beginning, middle, and end, my second tip is to tell the whole story. Peter McKinnon did a great video on this. I'll make sure I'll link it below, but basically this just means that you're telling the beginning, the middle, and the end. You need to tell all 3 parts of your story. When you jump into the middle or the conflict of your story and just totally skip over the beginning or the setup, then you end up confusing your audience and leaving them feeling disconnected from the video that they're watching. And that makes your audience less likely to watch the whole video. So instead of jumping into the middle of this story, make sure you take the time to walk your audience through the whole thing. They'll be more invested, they'll stick through the whole thing, and it'll just be a better experience for everybody. My third tip actually ties into the beginning of the story, and that's to deliver context to the audience. In other words, tell the audience where the character is and what they're doing. This is actually something I learned in middle school English, but it took me a while to translate that into video. Here's the deal: when you give the audience context, they don't have to waste time trying to figure out what's happening, which means they can focus on and get immersed in your story. On the other hand, if you skip over this, if you don't give the audience context, once again, you're leaving your audience confused and disconnected from the story that you're trying to tell. And this isn't just important in the beginning of the story. Along the way, throughout your entire video, if you come across a setting change, you need to deliver that context all over again so you don't lose your audience. Moving on, my next tip is more of a should not than a should, and it's to not baby your audience. Let me explain. While yes, you want to give your audience context, and yes, you want to walk them through the beginning, the middle, and the end of your story, too much information can seem cheesy and annoying. For example, let's say there's a scene in your video where a character gets disappointing news. Maybe they lost their job or a family member passed away. Now, you could have the character explain that they're angry or sad or disappointed, but that would be babying the audience and basically assuming that they wouldn't get it. On the other hand, you could show that the character is disappointed or sad or angry by their facial expressions or the actions that they take after they receive the news. This would allow the audience to piece everything together in their head and become more immersed in the story, which has a lot to do with something called the Kuleshov effect. I'm going to be putting a video out about that really soon. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss it. Tip number 5 is to aim for the emotions. Getting your audience emotionally invested in your story is a great way to keep them watching and keep them coming back for more. In fact, that's how 2 of my favorite shows, Doctor Who and Supernatural, don't judge, I see you judging, stop that, have kept going for season after season. Both shows have done a great job of getting their audience emotionally invested in not only the story, but also the characters. One of the best ways to do this is to look for what my friend Jeff from Story Greenlight refers to as the thing under the thing, which is, you know what? Why don't I just let him tell you about it?
So what we see on the surface, the face value of any given content, that is the thing. But what makes that really matter, what really makes it connect with their audience, is by tying it to stuff that goes deeper, the thing under the thing. The point is to think differently instead of just saying, here's what's happening on the surface.
So going back to my story about the road trip, it's not just about the road trip, it's about family and about overcoming obstacles in order to show up for each other. Coincidentally, that's pretty much what Supernatural is about too. It's about family and sticking together and going through everything together. It's not just about killing monsters and hunting ghosts. That would just be boring. If you focus on finding and telling the deeper story, then you're gonna keep your audience engaged, keep them coming back for more, and make better videos over and over again. And by the way, if you wanna know some other ways to make better videos, I've got a playlist linked right up here that you should definitely check out, and right down here's a video from Story Greenlight about the thing under the thing. And if you wanna learn more about video editing, camera gear, and how to make better videos, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll talk to you later.